What is the fastest way a room of happy people turned sour you've witnessed? Not exactly a room, but our plane landed home after my company spent a year in Iraq. Our company commander previously told us to tell our families that they shouldn't come out to the tarmac to welcome us back, because it would be a fucking circus and you'll just see them later anyway. Stepping off the plane, who are the first and only people we see? Our fucking commander's wife, 3 kids, parents, grandparents, brothers, and numerous cousins/friends. We had to work on a holiday, but management didn't, so there was nobody to unlock the building. We waited outside from 7 AM until 7:45 and were told that if we didn't get in by 8 we could go home. 7:55 the manager shows up and lets us in. Bad snowstorm started about 4 AM a few years ago. My co-workers and I were texting each other thinking no way would they make us come into our job today. We are non-essential workers. We're all home waiting for the email to go out regarding whether or not our boss would give us the day off. Email finally goes out around 7:30 AM saying that we would have a shorter day but everyone must show up for work by 9. So I laid up, cleaned off my car, shoveled out of my parking spot and headed to work on very precarious roads. I got to work on time and was greeted by my co-workers who were all pretty happy just to not have gotten into an accident on the way over. All of the clients and meetings had been cancelled, so there was a party-like atmosphere. Just as we were talking about playing charades, we get another email from the boss saying because road conditions were so bad they were closing the agency after all and everyone had to go home. This was 20 minutes after we had all gotten there. I have never seen 20+ people all scream "Are you fucking kidding me?" at the same time before. It was absurd and everyone was pissed. Was on a team, about 15 people, for a special project for a regional internet service provider. During the bi-weekly team meeting the manager was super pumped about how far ahead of schedule we were due to some new processes we came up with. After about 20 minutes of attaboys, the manager concluded with telling us all we were being laid off in the same tone of voice she used for the whole meeting, issuing a bunch of praise. Most of us awkwardly laughed for a couple seconds thinking she was joking. She was not. One day at work we had an hour meeting followed by a planned pizza party as a reward for meeting some safety goal. They'd been telling us all week not to worry about food because they were getting pizza. Well, after the meeting we're sitting around waiting for the pizza to get there when our boss comes in and tells us there was a failure of communication and no one actually ordered the pizza. If you want to see 50 factory workers go from excited to murder ready in less than a second, that's what you tell them. I was on a Chicago to night flight. We all get on the plane, but were delayed taking off due to a heavy storm going on. About 20 minutes in, everybody was still pretty calm until the pilot announces they are working on getting our baggage loaded because it's been sitting on the tarmac this entire time. The entire plane lucks out and sees all our luggage just sitting there in the pouring rain uncovered and starts freaking out. In grad school we were gathered in a room to hear about how the last term of classes in the program was going to be cut due to a new law regarding educator requirements for the state. Everyone was stoked because it was gonna save us like $5,000 to $8,000. Then they told us that due to state budget cuts, our total tuition was going to double. This is more of a mild story, but still very uncomfortable. It was at work during break. A whole bunch of us were outside smoking. One guy asks my coworker if he has any kids, says that he likes to dress up as Santa for the young ones. So my coworker tells him I have a daughter that just turned 20, and he replied with, "Well, she can definitely come sit on my lap." The silence after that sentence was so painful. Everyone ended up going back inside after that. It was super awkward. In Portugal during the World Cup, get there early to find a street bar in the center with a big screen. Place is soon packed. England start really well and everyone is singing and laughing. All of a sudden the bar up the road erupts into massive cheers. Lots of people go out into the road to see. Apparently someone just dropped an entire tray of drinks. We all laugh and go back to watching the game. 10 seconds later England score. Our bar erupts and we spill into the street. The bar up the road is deadly silent now. Weird. The game starts again. And the bar up the road starts shouting again. Nothing in the game. What's going on? People look up the road again. Can't quite work it out. Then a really bad tackle goes in, and the penny finally drops. Our bar's TV is the only one using satellite and all the other bars have cable. Our feed is about 20 seconds behind everywhere else. Every exciting moment is audible about 20 seconds before we get to see it. Have never seen a bar empty so fast in all my life. Camp. 150 kids headed to an ice skating rink. Everyone laughing, cheering, having fun. Sitting on school buses for 2 hours. The place is closed. Instant chaos, screaming, general unhappiness. Took us back the next day, but still the angriest I've ever seen. 150 kids. Dude decided to pop the question to his girlfriend at a work holiday party. She said no. Both parties began to cry inconsolably. All the guys in the room tried to cheer up the guy with their tales of woe. All the women in the room took the woman aside and did whatever the female version of the above was. Went from a fairly happy event to a complete disaster within minutes. Plus side, while all of this shit was going down, no one was eating the buffet, so I cleaned the fuck up. I made the mistake of playing categories with my mother. She said no foreign words, you have to use English words. Fine, fair enough. She then called out someone for using a foreign word. I can't remember. It's been 10 years. He took off the points. The next fucking round she used 3 foreign words. I called her out on it, and she said it was no big deal. It was just a game. I argued that not only had she set the rule, but that she already called someone out for doing it. She called me a fucking asshole and left the room. The Thanksgiving family time was over as pretty much everyone decided that was the time to leave. Total time from game start to end of the family time. 6 minutes. We were discussing road safety with the headmaster. One of the pupils pointed out that there had been a car crash right in front of her, just as she had been about to step out onto the road earlier that week, which had been really scary. The headmaster laughed and asked her what she was wearing, and if it had been her fault. Absolute silence for 10 seconds as he squirmed, and then mumbled, I mean, were you wearing a ball gown? Or, as if that had been what he'd meant. Pathetic and excruciating. A 50-year-old man to a teenage girl. The other day, on Thanksgiving, my brother cracked a cold beer right as we were about to eat. Problem was, we were at my mom's, and she's super anti-alcohol, unless she wants some. Well, since my brother cracked one, my dad did too, and my mom turned into some shit from The Exorcist. Screaming, cussing my dad and brother, hurling personal insults, looking for keys, so she could threaten to leave, the whole 9 yards. The worst part is I haven't been up to see them in months. So I had just driven 3+ hours with my kids and my husband, and we had just gotten there 30 minutes prior. I just sat there awkwardly staring at my husband while the brawl took place until we could sneak out on the porch to hide. Then we all ate in silence. How was y'all's holiday? My friend used to work for a company that has always promised out its department a trip to Hawaii for working through a couple of rough years without pay raise, and on the flip side we won't get any personnel cut. It was a verbal promise that once we are back to profitable, the department would get all expense paid trip. Back around October of 2015, they were gathered in the largest meeting room for a meeting with the president. There were snacks, drinks, pizza, etc. It was assumed that it was a celebration for a good year and they'd get the promised trip. It was a mass layoff, since it has been outsourced. All credentials were locked during the meeting and everyone was asked to leave the premise right after the meeting. This story took place my freshman year of high school. I was in an extremely small 5th period theater course with maybe about 10 or 15 other people in it. We were a very well behaved class that acted more like a family than anything else. It was fun. However, one day we got a substitute teacher who I'll call D. D was old. She had short white hair, permanent scowl, and always wore a jacket that looked like a duster. That particular day she was angry, and you could tell. She had a difficult time with the computer playing the movie, so she was yelling, fussing, and blaming her ignorance on us. In our class we had several tech-savvy people, but she refused all help because we were too risky. Eventually she gets it to work, giving us the chance to ignore her. Around 10 minutes into the film someone realized she hasn't said anything in a while, so they look over and see her eyes opened, still, and unresponsive. they turn to the rest of the class, who are still focused on the movie, and alerts them. Everyone begins to freak out. People are taking flash pictures of her, waving, ECT everything to get her to respond. Eventually she woke up, yelled at us, then went back to sleep with her eyes open once more. It was the freakiest situation ever, but the good news is that I never saw that sub working for my school again.